Welcome back to the Dadhood podcast. In today's episode, we have Adam Kaan, who is an online coach. He's the founder of the Fit Dad Life Mastery Program, and his mission is to help South Asian fathers to be fit and healthy. Adam is also a father to two children, and he has been divorced once and been remarried. In this episode, we go through all of the things that you guys as fathers should know about your own health. We go through Adam's story in terms of what motivated him to be in this position to help fathers become fit and healthy, and the types of excuses we might give as fathers where we don't want to control our weight, and how Adam can actually help us do that, the different attitudes, mindsets and tips and advice that he gives us to get over those hurdles. So this is going to be really beneficial, especially for those dads who are struggling to keep active and stay fit for their children and just for themselves, their married life as well. So definitely take a look, subscribe, like, put some comments down below on what you thought about this. And remember, you can find this podcast on all the podcast streaming platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, etc. So make sure that you follow it on there as well. Assalamu alaikum, Adam. Welcome to the Dadhood podcast. It's good to have you, and we're going to pretty much go straight into it. I saw you come on Islam channel, and viewers know that I work there, and I saw that you were speaking about taking care of your health, but related more specific to South Asian dads. Now, I'm a South Asian dad, and I'm sure many of my listeners are South Asian dads, and so I thought, what better guest to have on the podcast than Adam, mashallah. So before we go into that, I always ask a question to our guests most of the time, which is, given that you're a father, when did you have children, and how old were you when you had your children?
So first of all, wa alaikum assalam, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I became a dad early. I would say too early, honestly, if you ask me. So we're in a bit of a dilemma, and because it's a Muslim thing, I think we can talk about this as well. So we're in a bit of a dilemma in the sense that, when you're young and you're 19 and you're surrounded by temptation, right? So if you have a leaning for Islam and you're quite conscious of your faith, then you want to protect yourself from that, but then you've got strong desires. So what do? You think about marriage and getting married. So I was thinking about marriage I was from the age of 16, right? So and I went to a Islamic boarding school as well, and over there it's all about marriage, and you do have this very romanticized notion of marriage as well, and you don't realize that how much sacrifice, effort and things it takes. And in some regards, a lot of young men are not even mature enough. Like, on reflection now, I don't think I was mature enough. Sometimes I question if I'm mature enough now. I'm 40 and I'm 42. My wife will tell me I'm not, but and I'm 42, right? So but I wanted to get married, and I started looking to get married when I was at university at 19. I was looking to get married. So I so wasn't ready. And guys, if you're at university, if you haven't got means and stuff like that, yes, it's all sounds very, very, we read that hadith and stuff, Allah will provide, and which is all true, but you have to also be practical and realistic, right? So I was at uni, never had a penny to my name. I was trying to get married, but I got married at 23 eventually. Yeah, 23. I got married at 23. And this relates back to fatherhood as well. I was supposed to get married on the 12th of December 2002. Sorry, on the 15th of December 2002. My father passed away on the 12th. Everything was in turmoil. So but then we still got the yes, my father passed away on the 15th. Sorry, on the 12th. I was supposed to get married on the 15th, but because of all of that, we had this nikah done really quickly. There's some cultural things where my wife to be wanted to see my dad, and my dad wanted to see. Well, my dad was unconscious, so he didn't know. But we had this in our belief in our family that he should see his future daughter-in-law and all the rest of it. So we had this nikah rushed, and she came over. She met my dad, but then there was we didn't move in together until a few months later. But then I became a dad in 2004. 27th of Jan, I became a dad. So I got married at 23. Within a year, I was a dad. On hindsight now, the responsibilities and all that it brings. And I just finished uni, and I just got a job. But alhamdulillah, I started work 6 months before I got married. I was working full time. But yeah, that in short, that's when I became a dad.
Okay.
2004, 27th Jan.
So when you say that you may not, you regret it, or maybe you would have got married a bit later if you went back, or you advised brothers to make sure they sort out a few things. What were some of the challenges that you faced in your first couple of years of being a dad that you thought, actually, if I just waited a little bit, this would have been a bit more easier?
Financial burden. I was living with my parents. That has its pros and cons. And then I moved out to to the house that my dad left behind. I inherited. Well, the family inherited, but I was living there. But still, so I wasn't paying rent and I wasn't paying mortgage. And I still found it really, really difficult. Like every month, I just about pay the bills and survive. And I had some debt from my wedding. My wedding was pretty simple, but still I had debt from the wedding. Now, there was a month where I bought a few books for 40. I spent about £40 on books from Rolex Books, if anybody knows, in Manchester, which is an Islamic bookshop. So I bought a few books from there, only 2 or 3 books, spent £40. That month, I remember I went into my overdraft because, only because I spent £40 without thinking.
On books. Yeah.
Yeah, on books. Like that's the kind of tight budget we were living in. So my advice is establish yourself. Like when I say establish, at least have a few £1,000s saved in the bank. Have a steady job that you've held for a year or two. Have some savings in the bank. Don't have an extravagant wedding. Don't spend all that money that you saved on the wedding, right? Don't have an extravagant wedding. Save that money if you can for your future. So yeah, have some. Ideally, I'd say get more established. Like one of my friends is 42 and he's at university and he went through madrasa system and all the rest of it, and he didn't get a formal education. He went to Afghanistan and Pakistan and Syria and here and there and studied. It sounds like he went to war, but he went to study before all of this chaos, right?
Yeah, loads of people went out there to study before all of this happened. Yeah.
He went to study, and so he spent studying all these rare books and classical books and stuff, but he never got a formal education in terms of academia and being able to get a job. So he, about 4 or 5 years ago, it dawned on him, like, look, to get to be paid a better salary and I need to get a formal education. So he went back to university. So both him and I, we were talking like, what we should have done in our 20s, we're trying to make up for now. Like this business that I do now, Fit Dad Life Mastery, I've been working on it since 2013, 2012, 2013. But ideally, had I done something like this when in my 20s, and by the time I was 29, 28, 30, semi-established it, got married, not have to stress about finances and things like that, I think that would have served me a lot better.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, subhanAllah. I think a lot of younger brothers do kind of get stuck between whether I should get married now, whether I should wait a little bit. And there's always that kind of conversation that they're having in themselves or within their group of friends. And I think I've heard different answers, to be honest. But I think there's always, balance is always the key, right? And always looking at your context as well. Like there may be some people's context, maybe they come from a wealthy family and they don't have to earn that much or save that much to be able to start off their married life, and they can wait a bit. But some people, that's just, if you bring a woman into your life, you're gonna suffer and she's gonna suffer because you just haven't prepared yourself enough. So there's always a balance there, subhanAllah. So you're as you're saying, you've got this business that you've created, Adam Kaan Fitness, the big program in that is Fit Dad Life Mastery program. And as we said, it's all kind of targeted towards helping South Asian dads. And I can guess from some of the clients that come to you that a lot of their stories are to do with, I'm gaining a lot of weight, I know that I'm at risk of diabetes or heart disease,
Mm.
and I want to be there for my kids. I want to make sure that I can live my life in a way in which I can give energy to my kids. I have
Of course.
enough there, and obviously my lifespan. Obviously, it's up to Allah. When we die, we don't die, but
Yeah.
we take care of that so we can hope for a longer lifespan. I'm guessing that's the story, but that's
Yeah.
people coming to you. Did you have something like that behind the motivation? Was that like you thought, oh, my kids, that I need to be there for them, or maybe I'm gonna be at risk of heart disease, or was there some other motivation that got you into doing this kind of work?
It was an element of both. So for me, um, I started young. I didn't get to the stage where I was really, really obese. I mean, I later on I did, which is ironic after I was training and stuff. I suffered with a rare case of tuberculosis, and I was really, really ill. From the age of, so I told you I was in boarding school. I left that because I fell ill, and I was just getting the living daylights kicked out of me, right, every day for being ill. And I mentioned this on another podcast with a brother called I forgot the brother's name. Furqan Jabbar, might know him. A lovely brother. So he had me on a podcast, and I mentioned all of this to him. So I was in a Islamic boarding school where if you're ill, you just get beaten up. Right, that's what it was like in them days. So I got beaten up for months and months and months, and then I came home one Ramadan to my mum. I'm just getting the living daylights kicked out of me, and I was one of those that went there voluntarily. Like people
Okay.
send their kids there, and I went
Yeah,
there
yeah, yeah.
voluntarily. So mom said, look, if you're feeling that way, son, you can leave. And on the other podcast, those that are listening can watch it because I won't go back into all of that detail. But there's pretty eventful events happened, and then I left. So um, I my health deteriorated from the age of 15. It was just going downhill big time. I got to a point where I couldn't get out of bed or clothe myself or feed myself. I started suffering from depression, suicidal thoughts, and all this stuff. It got to such a stage, and then eventually, um, during this time, I was seen by various doctors, professionals. They thought, physiotherapists, everything, um, uh, and they couldn't figure out what it was. Multiple sclerosis and so many other suggestions. And then eventually, I saw a neurologist, and this neurologist who saw me, he asked me to take my t-shirt off, and I couldn't take my t-shirt off. And he was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "It's trying to take my t-shirt off." What had happened is I had this rare case of tuberculosis where it formed like a tumor in my head from the bone of my skull, and you'll notice that my head is off center. I've got a couple of vertebrae, one or two vertebrae missing. They kind of disintegrated and fell on top of each other. So my vertebrae are kind of C1, C2, but some of them are out of alignment. So when he saw me trying like struggling to take the t-shirt off, I was 18 at the time, or 18 or 19, and he goes to me and he said to me, like, son, like, how old are you? I told him my age. He goes, what a waste of a life. We need to get you into hospital. The next day they rang me, got me a hospital bed. I was there for 3 months. I was like guinea pig there. I had university students coming in and observing me because this was such a rare case. Because normally you get TB in the bone, you get it in your chest, and you cough blood. But I never got it um, in my chest. I got it in the bone of my skull. But we were talking earlier about, you said if Allah wants me to die, and I get this as an objection from people sometimes. Look, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. So like, why should I take care of my health? So when I've studied this with the teachers, they've said to me, look, there's two avenues that you can happen in life. One is like fixed, you can't do anything about it, and the other is subject to your choices. Right? I'm not an expert in this, but this is how I understood it. Like a smoker, like Allah has ordained for his life to be so many years if he quits smoking. But if he smokes and he doesn't reach his full life potential, so his life potential could be higher than the actual lifespan he reaches. So that's how they explained it to me. So this is a similar manner. So here's an example of where I believe it was absolutely fixed for me to get this TB. Like there's no chance that that this was meant to happen. And everything that's come from it, like subhanAllah, this is like you could make a story of it. Everything that came from it. So what happened was, you get a TB jab in schools, and that prevents you from getting TB. So I don't know if they still do it now. Back in the days, they did. So the day I was supposed to get my TB jab, what happened was my dad forgot to sign the paper. The lady had the needle and it was touching my skin, and she saw that the paper wasn't signed, and she said, "Oh, we can't do it." So then they came back the following week and they was going to do some more the next year or something. So they said, like, you can do it then. So that day I was supposed to get the jab. After break, I was supposed to have the jab. At break time, I got into a fight and I got suspended. And so I didn't get the TB jab. 7 days later, we go to Bangladesh on holiday and I catch TB. Because that's the only place I could have got it. It was in Bangladesh. So sanitary conditions and stuff. So I came back. We don't know what's wrong. I start getting these headaches, and my neck starts hurting. I think it's football injury. Doctors even suggested at one point, "Oh, he's just trying to claim benefits. He doesn't want to work. He just wants to be out of college, and he just wants to claim benefits. That's all it is." So that is an example where God absolutely decided that was going to happen. So from that, so then during that time, when you're ill, you don't understand the value of something until it's gone. So I was in like my health deteriorated. I told you, I got to a point where I was bedbound. I mean, there was a summer, I was still in the same house, in the same room. So there's a bed behind me, and I remember lying in bed, and it was summer, scorching hot. You could hear all the birds and the children playing outside and the birds singing, and I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't even feed myself. Like I couldn't even I couldn't even lift a cup of tea to my mouth. And at that time, there was no mobile phone, like you entertain yourself. Like I had this rubbish radio, and you could barely tune it in, and that's all I had for entertainment. And I had people visiting me, like I was gonna die. Like one person after another, people were coming and seeing me and stuff. So at that time, like I said, I was going through some suicidal thoughts, and I was just, I wanted to give up on life. Like I thought, look, I'm just getting worse and worse. And if I'm going to live like a cabbage, now you see all these motivational videos online, guys have got no legs or no arms, and they become CEOs, and they're famous on Instagram and whatnot. But in them days, like you had never had these figures, right? So I thought, look, if I'm going to live like this in bed, and people are going to have to feed me and help me change my clothes, I don't want to live. Like, what do I want out of life? And you don't know if you're gonna. I didn't know if I was gonna get better. Like the future looked bleak. Like it's never gonna get better. But I mean, but I used to, because I was quite well versed in the Quran, and I had Islamic background. I also knew that suicide is haram. Giving up on Allah, giving up on Allah's in what's the word? Qanut. Yeah. Qanut is haram as well, and also La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha, that Allah doesn't place a burden on you more than you can bear. Plus the hadith that whenever you're burdened with something, Allah is removing some of your sins, and all of that stuff. Plus the support of my mum just kept me alive. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad I stayed alive, because we wouldn't be here today. So then eventually, when they got me to hospital, they did a biopsy. They took a piece of this thing out, and they found out it was TB. And he said to me, I remember the doctor saying to me, look, you know what? It can be one of three conditions. It's either some fluid, and we can drain it out. If it's a tumor, we're going to have to cut it out. But, we've got the best surgeons. And the reason why I couldn't move is these bones that had collapsed, they were digging into my spinal cord. So any movement would dig into my spinal cord and send like this electric shock, through my body, like crazy, man. It's like next level pain. But then he goes, look, the best diagnosis we can have if it's TB. If it's TB, we can treat it with medication. Alhamdulillah, it turned out to be TB, and they treated it with medication. But in them few years, like we were out of desperation, we saw everybody. Iraqis, people selling ta'weezes, beers, everything. And my mum must have spent, we were on benefits, my dad wasn't working, and my mum still must have spent about 5-10K, borrowed money, all sorts. And we had some people, who are, community leaders, well-known imams and stuff, right, telling us it's jinns, and like it's going to cost £60, and then constantly giving us new tawizes and new thingy, and we're just paying like this subscription offer, and like telling us it's jinns and it's this jinn, it's that jinn, and someone's done black magic and it's this and that. As soon as we found out it's TB, within 6 months, gone. In 6 weeks, I was like already like really improved. And 6 months, it's gone. And this is why I'm always skeptical when I see people constantly like, yes, we know evil eye exists, we know black magic exists, we know jinns exist, but we shouldn't be attributing every illness, everything, unless we're absolutely certain that that's the case. And then after I recovered from that, was the first time in my life I started gaining weight. Because prior to that, I was always skinny, right? Really skinny, underweight. At about 18 years old, I was 7 stones. And like the cheeks and my bones, I was like, you know, like, and so when I first recovered and I started gaining weight, the doctors were like, brilliant. Like, it's good. It's a good sign, this. And then I started gaining weight. I never got to extortionate amounts, but for the first time ever, I had a belly. And I was working part-time, and this time I was trying to jog to work. I was getting late, and I was always quite active. So I'm trying to jog to work, and all of a sudden, my leg, I thought, I'm getting late. I need to get to work. You know, I tried to jog, and I couldn't move. Like, it's like, wow. All of a sudden, it's like somebody just put this backpack on me of like 30, and my legs felt heavy. And I thought, wow, like something's wrong. And I remembered then, it just dawned on me that when I was ill, I made a promise to God that if I became better, I would not take it for granted. I would not take my health for granted. And here I was. As humans, we are, forgetful. And I was neglectful, and I was taking my health for granted. And, I let myself go. So I thought, from then, you know what, I'm going to sort this out. I'm going to start this out. And I had a friend who was in the gym constantly. And even with him, I'd make excuses. He'd say to me, you need to get to the gym. Why don't you come to the gym with me? And I'd say, no, I'm exercising my brain, not my body. And you've got body dysmorphia. I'd say, and I'd project my own insecurities onto him. And I'd say, oh, you've got body dysmorphia. But then after this incident, I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I went to the gym, and it was 2002, Christmas holidays, and I just went crazy, like 3-4 hours training, strict dieting, reducing, like not eating much at all, like the typical process that people go through. And I lost so much weight. Like when I went back after the Christmas holidays to university, like everyone was like, wow, like you've lost weight. Like I'd lost about 1.5 stone.
Right.
Or a stone in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Right?
That's very
unhealthy though, like unhealthy weight, like 5 hours, just crazy. So I kept that up or as much as I could, and then I lost all my weight, got married, had kids, and that weight started creeping up again. But I mean, I was still training like not like the 4 or 5 hours a day. It was like, I was training 5-6 hours a week, 7 hours a week. Plus I was trying to put muscle on, and I did this bulking stuff a little bit, and it's stupid. So from about 2005 to 2006 until 2012, I struggled with my weight. Like I was in the gym, I was supposedly eating clean, supposedly dieting, but I was still I was between very fat and fat.
Yeah.
Very fat.
Yeah. Do you know, I think a lot of guys would relate to that, even myself. Like I don't know, maybe it's I don't know if you come across this a lot with your clients, and if it is something that is a pattern that we see amongst Muslims or amongst South Asians, that once we start thinking about our health, we just don't know what to do with it, because maybe in our community there are no people to look towards, or maybe our fathers or our uncles or the men in our community didn't really get involved in sporty activities or get involved in going to the gym and taking care of their health and whatnot. And so maybe you find in other cultures that they are more active, or they're in their families. Like, for example, I don't know anyone one to one, but you might see, for example, in movies and stuff, right? That dads taking their sons to sports. Or, I mean, when I played football when I was a teenager, I always saw the white dads and whatnot coming to watch the games and helping their sons out and whatnot. So maybe those children from those communities have something to look towards, and so they know what they're doing when they're getting into changing their bodies and their dietary habits and whatnot. But for South Asians or Muslims, it seems like that isn't there. So when they go into that field, I remember I did that. And when I was 17, I thought, yeah, let me go gym and pump a few weights and eat a lot of chicken, and somehow that will that will get me to the body that I want. And then just went up and down and up and down and up and down until I was able to actually learn properly. And is that like a common thing that you see?
It is. It's very common. So there's another trigger. So one was my trigger was that I was ill. I was ill and I recovered. Another thing, when I was about 8, 9 years old, my dad had a heart attack. Eventually, my dad passed away from a stroke. You know, I said he was unconscious.
Yeah,
This was like his. I mean, this was like his 6th stroke. Like,
wow.
So when I was about 8 or 9, I was in. Now it was called Junior 1. I think it's year 4, year 5 or something now. I don't know. So I was in Junior 1, and that's when my dad had his first heart attack. Must have been his late 40s. And I remember writing on a card that, get well soon, Dad, and teacher asking me, like, why. I made a post on this on Facebook because I found a school picture with that teacher in that picture. And everything, all the memories came back. And I made a post on it, and she was asking me, like, what's wrong with your dad? And I said, look, I didn't understand it at the time. It was a heart attack. I just said, like, hospital, all this ambulance came, they took him away and stuff like that. And he was in the hospital a few days, and my mum was struggling because she didn't speak any English and with little kids. And at that time, there was a lot of racism and violence. We used to get people smashing our windows and stuff, and throwing things through the letterbox, putting dog feces through the letterbox and stuff. Where we live now.
Manchester, you were growing up in Manchester.
Yeah. Yeah, Oldham, just outside of Manchester.
Yeah.
So so there's all that. So my dad, remember, and I always point this out to people who are quite negligent about their health. We never had a car, like we couldn't afford a car. My dad used to walk everywhere. He used to carry the shopping, right? My dad was quite frugal like that. He'd carry the shopping from supermarket, right? And he used to walk everywhere, and he abhorred takeaways and stuff. Like, he was dead against him. Like, I remember once I got my takeaway, and my dad was like, really had to go at me. But there weren't that many takeaways then anyway. Like, I can remember only 1 or 2 in my whole area. Now there's like 10 on top of my street.
On one road.
Yeah. And there wasn't many. And so my dad never, ever in his life had a takeaway, I don't think, right? And he used to walk everywhere. He was quite active in that sense, not sports or anything like that. And he wasn't a smoker, nothing like that. And he still had a heart attack like in his late 40s. And then, in 1994, after he came back from Bangladesh, he had, this is the first time I went there, he had a stroke. And that was his big stroke. That left him half his body paralyzed. Then after that, my mum became his main carer, and his health kept deteriorating. This is another like scary situation. Like, he couldn't do much for himself, like even clean himself. He couldn't do any of that. And then he had little strokes after that, and it just kept getting worse. And then in 2002, he had another stroke, and he was in hospital for about 3 months, and then he passed away. But by that time, he was 60, 67, 65, 60, yeah, about 67. Because in our family, like, nobody knows their dates of birth exactly, because we never kept the thing. So it's about 67, which is still not super, super old.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And then, but then from 94 to 2002, he never really had a life. Like, he was housebound. Bedbound, housebound with a stroke. He'd have a frame and stuff, and that's no quality of life. So even if we argue that, okay, when you're gonna die, you're gonna die, right? But what about the quality of life?
Yes.
We call it health span in the fitness industry. They call it health span. What about your health span? You might live, you might be alive, but are you living?
Yeah.
So and what kind of, like, it was tough for my mom. It was tough for us, like, with our dad. Now, do you want to be dad where your kids are cleaning you? Do you want to spend the last 15, 20 years of your life where all you're just there so that your wife can clean you and your children can clean you and look after you, or do you want to be there with your grandchildren and your children and run around with them in the park, like at 67? And it's very possible. Like I see fit non-Asian dads. Inshallah, we try to change that. Like we have a client now. He's in his 53, 54, I think it is. He's in the gym, fantastic. And inshallah, I said to him, look, he's on his about 10th week or 11th week, and I said to him, brother, what I want you to be the role model. That's the envy of 20-year-olds. Inshallah, I want to get you to a point where you're the envy of 20-year-olds. And he's the eldest client that I've got, I've had now. But when I look in social media, I'm in fitness circles and stuff, I see like people from the wider population, 65, 75, 80, and they look fit.
I mean,
strong.
just go down to your local park and you'll see the old white ladies, old white men walking around, and looking fit and healthy and playing with their children,
jogging,
and you can tell, and jogging and all sorts, and you can tell that they are quite old, like they're in that kind of 70+ range.
Easy. I mean, the other thing I do, I love hiking. I go hiking quite a lot, and you go rambling as well. If you go hiking and rambling, you'll see maybe 40, 50, even 60 people, mainly old white people. And you might see the odd one or two Asian, or none at all. But, 60, 70 of them will be white. And alhamdulillah, I think it's changing now a little bit. But my biggest concern, and there was somebody posted earlier about picking children up from school. Like we used to walk to school and stuff, and now they get picked up. And I said, it has its pros and cons and stuff, and I understand the reason why some do it. So we're far more inactive. Our young children are far more inactive than they ever were. There's more takeaways, and they're eating more junk food than they ever have. There's more dessert places. There's just so many more factors that are eating into their health. Now, if we are in a sorry state at this age, like God help them, like God help the next generation, like where they will be. And like I said, if my dad had a stroke, being active and all that's not very takeaways. Like where do we stand, and where does the next generation stand? And that is a big concern. But like you said, there's not that many role models, and you don't have fathers taking the thing. In our society, in our community, most social events are around food. Most family social events is around food. Even when the kids are being taken out, parents take them to a dessert place, or they take them to a kebab shop. Teenagers, when they get older, it's kebab shops and shisha, right? And it's all detrimental to their health. But alhamdulillah, we're fortunate we don't have the alcohol issue.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
But unless we change some things.
And so once you kind of started learning a lot more about all of this, kind of understanding exactly how to get your health up properly, like you said, you were kind of flipping and flopping between this diet and that diet and this workout and that workout until you started creating a proper kind of regime for yourself and doing it properly. Did you then think about how you're going to be able to teach that to your children, and how you're going to sort of role model that within your household, and what measures did you take for that?
So like I do little workouts and stuff at home with the kids.
Okay.
And now my son's a bit older. He's 13. He goes to the gym with me.
Oh, nice.
So he trains with me. But our teenagers have zero consistency and zero resilience. So, but I'm on him. I mean, I'm on his case. And so he's 70% adherent, right? So he's kind of still going. So alhamdulillah, we do that together. And we used to be very active, but since it's become a teenager, it's become a lot more difficult. He just wants to sit around at home. We used to go as a family. So I'm divorced once and I've remarried. So the lady that I'm married to now, she was active, and I'm active, and she trains. She goes to the gym and stuff, and we like hiking and stuff, and we used to take the kids out, her kids and my kids, we used to take them out hiking and stuff. But since they became teenagers, it's an absolute nightmare. We try and force them, but it's quite difficult. But inshallah, like she's a good health role model. I'm a good health role model. It will rub off on them. But alhamdulillah, all our kids are very slim as well. So
Okay, alhamdulillah. What are some of the things that you'd advise? Because like me personally, well, my kids are quite young right now. One of them's 3 and one of them's 1. Okay, so obviously, inshallah, there's a lot of kind of learning to do, and a lot more I can do with them as they get older. But I'm sure a lot of people listening have kids in kind of the sort of 8, 9, 10 years old, where they want to eat a lot of junk food, where they want to snack and they want to do this and they want to sit down with their snacks and play games and watch movies and whatnot. And as a parent, obviously you want to make sure that they have the best, right? That they are eating healthy, that their brains are being powered by nutritious food and whatnot. But then at the same time, you feel like some parents feel like they're depriving them of a childhood, not giving them sweets and things like that. Maybe their friends, they see them and they go to school with their friends, and their friends in their packed lunches have all sorts of stuff in there. And you as a parent don't want your child to have that. So I'm sure you've had conversations with the dads that you've been kind of working with on how they can possibly help their own children and model those kind of behaviors in the household. So do you have like any tips to make sure that you're building good habits in the children as well?
I think the best thing is if you don't do it yourself, if you don't overeat on junk and you don't have a lot of chocolate yourself, then it won't be in the house as much. Like you have to limit the quantity you have in the house. So you have just enough, but not excessive amounts. And you have to teach them that respect, that yes, you can have chocolate, maybe once a day, once every couple of days. You could have, it has its pros and cons. You could have it where you earn it, like have your food, do everything, and then you can have a chocolate, not 5 chocolates. But the biggest thing is really limiting how much you have in the house. And in terms of in their packed lunch and stuff, if you condition them from a young age, it just becomes a norm. Like it just becomes a norm, and they're okay with it. Like my son, my kids are, the lady that I'm with now, she says like you deprived them. So the I because I'm very health conscious, and one of the problems that the listeners or viewers will have is that when they can't control their cravings and stuff. But I'll let you into a little secret. Cravings happen from associations and from your environment. Like cravings happen above the neck. It's not a biological response. It's not what's called homeostatic hunger, right? It happens above the neck. It happens due to triggers, environmental triggers and associations. Like if every time I sit down and I watch TV, I have chocolate and crisps or a bowl of popcorn, and I've associated watching TV with having that food. So it's a habit loop. So there's that. And it's the environment. Like if there's chocolate, like if there's chocolate in the house and it's in front of me, I'm gonna eat chocolate. Like I don't have some magical willpower. People think that trainers and coaches have some magical willpower, that they're always right. I'm willpower now, I'm not gonna eat it. No, you just control the environment. So for that reason, I never have a lot of chocolates and crisps in the house, and I haven't had for years. So kind of to reduce my own temptation. But as a result of that, my kids couldn't have it either. So I would only get the amount that they need for their packed lunch, and that's it. And the other thing I would do is I would get the chocolates that I don't like Milky Way. I can't stand Milky Way. I don't like Mars bars, so I might get them a little Mars bar. I might get them Milky Ways, but because so for several years I brought my kids up on my own after I got divorced, and I made packed lunches for them, and I gave them healthy-ish packed lunches, for all them years.
Nice, yeah.
So, yeah, the odd chocolate bar and stuff, and yeah, you hear them swapping something with their friends in school.
Yeah.
It's not often. It's not often. But having said that, you make their food tasty. Kids don't care. As long as the food's tasty, they'll eat it. Like I'd make them chicken wrap with air fried chicken,
Yeah.
right? And it's grilled chicken. And his friends would want to eat it. His friends would ask to buy them off him. Like, and they'd tell him, oh wow, like your dad's food is so tasty. And they'd have like greasy, oily foods that their parents have sent them, or it's a
Yeah.
fried chicken burger, or it's pilau rice, and it's I don't know whatnot. It's greasy food, and these kids are wanting to swap greasy foods for the healthy option. So, so
MashaAllah, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah, speaking about foods and stuff, I'm sure some of the dads that come to you to kind of change their life around a little bit, a lot of them will probably say, I can't, I can give up the cravings and the chocolates and the crisps and all of that. I can go to the gym, I can work out, fine, but I can't give up my roti. I can't give up my
fine.
my curries. I can't do that, So how do you get around that?
That's one of my USPs is that you can eat curry, you can eat roti. You can eat them. Roti is isn't that bad at all. And curries aren't really bad either. The only bad thing in a curry is the excess oil. So if you reduce the oil, yes, you might have to compromise a little bit on taste, but um, I mean, you've got to ask yourself, is that compromise worth it? So that's why one of the things that I will always do with clients, like a brother's messaging me today, and I'm asking a question, and I could see him getting a little bit frustrated with my questioning, but my point of the questions is to see if he's serious and if he's going to commit, if he's got a strong enough reason. Um, if he doesn't have a strong enough, and I've explained, I said, look, my reputation hinges on your results, on our clients' results. Now, if I take on somebody who's not really committed, they've not given it enough thought, they're not serious, like they've not, like there's a stage, like before change happens. And I've got a pretty decent video in my free group on Facebook, if anybody's listening and is interested. It's a Prochaska and De Clemente's cycle of change. So there's a process you have to go through before change happens. And if somebody is here on that process, and our program is here. Before they can get on that program and make it work for them, they need to be further down that cycle of change. If they're here and they jump onto that program, they weren't ready. So they're not going to commit. They're not going to make they're not even going to make the tiny compromises, never mind the bigger compromises. They won't even be willing to make the tiny sacrifices, the tiny compromises, or even in terms of time, not just taste and food, but in terms of time, because they're not ready. So I'll often question people to see how ready they are. And sometimes, like it can get, if you're not ready, it's gonna get very frustrating, because you'd be like, just tell me, like, what's the program? Like, why do you want, just tell, like this brother said to me, look, just tell me the price, tell me what the program is, and then I said, well, let's, before we get to that, so when people are ready, and that goes back to looking at your why, looking at having had that period of contemplation. So you have to have a period of contemplation where you think about, you know what, like, yes, it is affecting my life. My kids are being affected. I do want to be a role model for my kids. I've lost the chemistry in my marriage. I'm not that youthful, attractive dude that, my wife married. There's that chemistry's died and all. So it's affecting my, my relationships, my marriage, and in some cases, even my finances. So I have a lot of brothers who are professionals and they do presentations and things like that. So when they start, sometimes they get, when they go into that period of contemplation and they start reflecting and think, do you know what, like, I'm afraid to do presentations, or I'm self-conscious when I do presentations, which is affecting my ability to deliver on presentation. Or I'm, like one brother said to me, he didn't apply for jobs because he knew that next role was going to pay him another 7K. I think he's going to require, he has to do a lot of presentations, or he has to be speaking in public. And he knew that that's going to involve, and he was so self-conscious. And it didn't even, sometimes, one brother told me, it didn't even dawn on him till he got on the program and did some deep soul searching. Like another brother as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And he used to go out to a lot of events and speak on the stage. And he goes, what not happened, he's noticed that over the last 3 years, he's like, he'd start making petty excuses. Oh, I can't attend this reason, that reason. And he goes, he slowly kind of faded into the background and he stopped doing these events. He goes, only after he did a bit of soul searching, when he was in the program, he realized that he was making excuses because he was self-conscious of being on stage.
Right.
Right. And he'd gone so big, he was self-conscious of what people are going to be thinking, what they're going to be saying. He kind of just faded into the background.
Yeah. So
And
so your health can actually affect you in multiple ways, or your
yes,
body
yes,
image can, because you know, I think throughout this whole podcast we were mainly talking about taking care of our health in terms of our physical bodies, and making sure that that's okay and we have energy and we're there for our children.
yeah,
But even your own mental health will
mental
suffer
health, yeah,
from your bad
of
physical
course.
health as well.
And even your career can suffer. Like we said, like if
Yeah.
you're somebody who say you've got the brains, right, and you just know that, but it's your confidence that's lacking, right, because of your body image, um, and you're not applying for the next job, so you're not moving up in your career, or
Yeah.
you're the guy who's raising funds, and these are all real life examples. Like these are not even things that I thought about. These are examples that clients have
Yeah.
shared with me. But somebody who's not ready won't even make the tiniest amount of compromise.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we will never ask you that you need to be in the gym 5 hours a week. You need to go do cardio for hours. You need to cut out roti. You need to cut out curries.
Yeah.
We won't any of
Because
that.
that's
We will,
what I was gonna ask you. Because a lot of dads are gonna say like, this sounds great. Like I wanna get fit. I wanna get healthy. I wanna look better for my wife. I wanna be able to take care of my kids. I wanna have a longer health span. You know, all that kind of stuff. But look, at the end of the day, I'm a dad. I'm busy. Yeah, I have to work. I have to look after my kids. You know, when am I gonna get time? You know, maybe I can go play football here and there. Maybe I can go for a jog here and there. But I'm not gonna get time to focus on my health like this. So you know, like you were saying,
no,
you're saying that you don't have to go to gym that much. You don't have to
no,
put in
you
that
don't have
many
to go at
hours.
all. You don't have to go at all.
Interesting.
I've got, alhamdulillah, I've got a client called Abdul Shukur who lost 25.5 kg in 12 weeks during lockdown without ever going to the gym.
Wow.
Um, now, or any kind of training. Now, what happened? Before that, he'd done keto, he'd done this diet, done the gym and everything. And then on our program, alhamdulillah, none of that. I managed to lose 25 kg in 12 weeks, without any kind of strict diet or anything like that. So, when it comes to weight loss is actually really easy, right? As soon as you build certain habits and routines, things like that, it's really easy. If you want to build muscle and you want an aesthetic physique, then you do need to go to the gym. Well, you don't even need to go to the gym. You need to resistance train. You need to take time out. You need to take dedicated time out for that purpose. But when it comes to weight loss, you don't really need to take time out, depending on how fast or slow you want it to go. Once on the program, we tell people like, look, if you want to lose this much weight, if you want to go at this rate, this is what you need to do. If you want to go at this pace, this is what you need to do. And each of them will require different time commitments. If you wanted to lose about half a kg a week, you wouldn't really need to take any time out at all. You just need to make some tweaks and changes to your existing routine, um, and you could do it that way. And that would mostly impact your nutrition. And if you want to speed that up a little bit, then you can add in some activity. You can do your nutrition part and add in some activity. But that activity can be integrated into your day quite
Yeah.
easily with
Okay.
your kids, with your wife.
So you don't have to take
Even
out extra time from being a dad. You could, whilst being a dad, you can implement
yeah,
certain things.
yeah. Especially when you got young kids, you can take them to the park. I know it's winter and it's cold now, but the kids don't mind. I think we find it more of a problem than they do.
That's true.
Um, the but yeah, but like I said, with that minimal amount of effort, you could lose about half kg a week. And
Yeah.
and one of the things that we kind of really push is that, look, this is not a temporary thing. It's not a quick fix, or we have a 12-week and a 24-week program, but see it as this is the start of your new life. Like, even after you finish this, you're gonna continue with these habits and routines and things like that. But because they're not so intrusive, and they're not so demanding, that don't require you to take hours and hours out, you can quite easily maintain them. Myself personally, like, I work like 12 to 16 hours a day. sat behind a computer. Since 2019, I'm a full-time online coach,
Right.
right?
Okay.
So, and if I'm not sat behind the computer, work isn't getting done. Like things are slowing down. Alhamdulillah,
Yeah.
I've got like I've got 7 members of staff, and I'm still feel like I'm still having to work 12, 13 hours, and it's all behind the computer. And when I away from the computer, I get anxiety. Like there's things that need to be done, and
Yeah.
I like just before I came on the podcast here today, I thought I need to get out. It's not been, it stopped raining because it always rains in Manchester, and it
Yeah.
wasn't raining today as well. I thought, I've not really gone out for a walk in a good few days, so
Yeah.
let me just get out, get some fresh air, and get some walking in. And I listen to my Audible and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, right, I'm not wasting time. I'm still doing stuff. Despite that, in the back of my mind, like, oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to finish this.
Yeah.
I've got this presentation to complete. Got this to do and that to do. And despite that, being sat behind the computer for so many hours a day, alhamdulillah, I still haven't put on tons of weight.
Alhamdulillah. There must be some
So,
magic formula there.
so that's the same formula that I teach the clients.
Right. So
I
so
don't do I don't do anything different that I don't
yeah.
I don't do anything different that I teach.
I think that's the misconception a lot of people have. They think that like personal trainers are in this kind of magic world, right? Where they kind of have their own way of supernaturally kind of keeping fit, and ordinary people can't do those kind of things, and then people give up. And I to be honest, I had those misconceptions. Like I always used to think that like online coaches like yourself, it's a fad. It doesn't really work. Or I'd say things like, well, I've just got Asian genes. Yeah, I've heard people say this a lot, right? I've just got Asian genes, so it's not really gonna change much, right? That's what I'd say to myself. But once I kind of got serious that okay, I've got kids now, and I want to make sure that I'm sorting out my health. Like I don't want to be flipping flopping like I was doing when I was a teenager, when I was in university and whatnot. Now I've got kids and I need to be serious about doing it in a proper way. And once you do kind of take it seriously and look into it properly and have somebody who that holds you account and knows what they're talking about, then you find out actually all of this stuff is accessible. All of this stuff is pretty easy. All of this stuff can be done by the average person, by the average dad, by the average South Asian Muslim, right? And it's like what you said, it just requires that why, right? It just requires making sure that why and that commitment is strong, and then everything else after that is easy, to be honest.
The weight loss part you can do easily.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Weight loss
exactly.
part is easy. Weight loss part is bad. Again, let's see, a lot of people assume it's about diet and it's about workout. It's not. The weight loss part is about mindset, motivation, education, and behaviors and lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because your weight loss comes down to nutrition, but your nutrition is dictated by your mindset and your behaviors. And I mean, all of it is kind of enveloped by mindset, because a lot of the things and the stories you're telling yourself is dictating how you eat. I deserve this food. Do you really? Like, I deserve this food, or okay, a little mindset thing I'd say to clients when they say, "Oh, I deserve this." But first of all, the education is okay. You've been to the gym, right? You think, and again, there's a lot of misinformation, and even sometimes it's irresponsible PTs and coaches that put this information out there, like HIIT training, right?
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, you're doing a HIIT training, you're gonna burn a ton of calories. HIIT training, you'll only really burn about 150 to 200 calories max. That's if you do about 25 minutes, 30 minutes of HIIT training, and you're already pretty fit, so that you can train at that really high level. If you're not fit and you're not training at a really high level, then 100 calories you burn. So you come out of that and you feel beaten up because you train like HIIT training, and you're assuming you burnt thousands of calories.
Yeah.
And then you go and have a latte, which is 350 calories.
You just put it all back on.
So now you're in a 250 calorie surplus. I actually saw this yesterday on somebody's Facebook feed. Like, oh, I deserve this, and they went training and they did some Pilates or something, and I knew that Pilates are what, 60, 70 calories, 100 calories, and then they went they said straight after they went to Starbucks and had a latte, and I could see this. They had the cream and stuff on it. I thought that's like a 400 calorie drink. Now that might be down to just education. So they didn't understand the energy balance, sequence, right? So that my education also is a mindset. Like I deserve it. So one of the things I would say to clients is when they say I deserve it, I'd say, look, but don't you deserve to live longer as well? Right? So swap that thought for I deserve a latte. I deserve to live longer. Now I'm gonna erase this. I deserve this latte. I'm gonna swap it for I deserve to live longer. And eat something else or compromise on the taste or find an alternative.
Yeah.
So
Just to wrap up, Adam. You were saying before, you mentioned very very briefly that you know for 7 years you were taking care of your two children on your own because you went through a
yeah,
divorce period.
yeah,
And the reason I wanted to end on this is because you know I this is the first time we're having a full on conversation. I mean, I only contacted you a few days ago, right? And I'm what I'm getting across from you is that you're this super motivated individual who wants to really help South Asian dads kind of beat this issue within our community of just being lazy, of not taking care of our health. Like that's coming throughout this whole podcast. But you went through a period of hardship for many number of years. Yet you still come out on the other end as this motivated individual, as somebody who wants to help other people, as you know, and a dad yourself. And that's something that I inspire to as well. Like as a dad, it's not that I just like obviously I want to be there for my kids. I want to influence my kids, but I also want to be like a role model that they can look up to. That
of
look, I'm
course.
also helping out other people too, which is why I had this
Yeah,
podcast because I want to make sure I help out other dads and they can understand and learn from other Muslim dads about the experiences, and hopefully my kids when they grow up and they see that you know whilst you're taking care of us, you're also trying to help out other dads, and those dads are going to help out their children. So I think I find it quite motivating and inspiring that you're getting to that stage and you are at that stage where you're able to do that, but you've had this period of hardship and you've been able to overcome it. So could you mind if you just go into a little bit into those that period and how you got out of it and got to this stage now where
yeah.
you're confident in yourself and you're making other people confident in themselves as well?
Yeah, so around 2012, I got divorced. Now, like I said, I was always training since 2002. I was always training, but I struggled with my weight, and I'd gained a lot of weight. And in 2012, I was around the fattest ever, right? Despite training 5 times a week and eating healthy, clean. And this is why I posted today. I said, don't confuse clean eating with eating to lose weight. Yes, there's lots of little nuances. And once again, we're going to a lot of detail explaining it. Sometimes on sound bites, people don't get the nuance. Now, so around 2012, I was the fattest ever. I got divorced. And when you get divorced, you reevaluate everything. You reevaluate your whole life. And then plus you know, this trigger tends to go off where you think, okay, I need to change, I need to better myself and stuff.
Yeah,
And plus, I wanted to get back on I wanted to get back on the shelf. I wanted to be, wanted to get remarried. I was always 32.
sure, sure.
So I thought, like, I want to be an eligible candidate. But at that time as well, I thought, enough is enough. I've been training for years. I've tried to understand this stuff, and I haven't. So I started doing some like deeper research, enrolling on like higher priced courses and stuff, and learning this stuff. But around that time, in terms of the motivation to start the business off was I was involved with some charity organizations, and I was part of. So after I was in a full-time job, but after I got divorced because I took the
Sure.
kids,
Yeah.
I couldn't work full time, right?
Mm.
I couldn't work full time. Like I took my kids into work once when I first got them, and they said, "Look, our kids at work, like
Sahan.
we have to see it." So I said, "Well, I'm gonna have to quit," and I had to quit. So
Yeah.
now then I started working for the masjid, and I was on £300 a month. And this is another issue with Muslim organization institutions is that when the minimum wage went up by 20p,
Yeah.
they refused to pay me. This was
Wow.
a large Muslim organization. I'm not going to name it, but it's a
Sure,
large one
sure.
that's pretty well established, right? And
Mm.
you think that they pay really well, but I was only on £6 something. It went by 20 up by 20p, and I was refused to pay, and I was quite disheartened by this. And at the same time, I was doing a lot of voluntary work for charity, and um, I was always asking for donations, but I couldn't make many donations myself. And that really left a sour taste in my mouth. Like, I'm asking everyone for donations and I can't donate. And the people that were around me, they all had decent jobs. Like the people the other volunteers, the pharmacists and solicitors, and they had decent jobs. And I was the masjid teacher.
Yeah.
And you have that intention as well. I'm doing it for the sake of Allah. I'm teaching people how to read the Quran and learn Arabic and stuff. So, so at that time, like I was doing this for 8-9 months a year, and then one day I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to step back from all of this extra voluntary work that I'm doing. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to work on myself and better myself and try and get to a stage where, like Prophet said, look, the hand that gives is better than the hand that takes. So I said, I don't want to be the guy asking for donations. I want to be in a position where I can give donations and give it liberally and generously. So I was always had this entrepreneurial spirit from a young age. So I started looking into online, marketing and this, that, and the other, and what can I do? So I assessed all my strengths and things. And I launched a Quran course, actually. It's still there. I didn't market it. I launched a Quran course to learn Arabic. And it's called Understand Quran in 40 Days. Because when I was at university, I learned to understand the Quran in like 6 weeks on my own from books. So I thought, okay, let's see if I can make this into a course, which I did, but then I didn't market it. But then I realized that, there's so many sheikhs and scholars, and I'm not like a scholar or anything like that. And everyone's doing it. And another sister who's she's a business mentor, she said to me, look, that market's saturated, lots of people doing it. But I've seen you're into, health and fitness. And I know that your other interest is health and fitness. Is there a need in our community for that? I thought, yeah, there is. And it's something I enjoy and I've been doing for years. And in 2012, I managed to figure out, between 2012 and 13, I managed to figure out the secret of weight loss, if you will. And I lost my weight and I kept it off. It'd been like 4 years, I'd kept the weight off without too much struggle, without crazy struggle. I thought, actually, I'm onto something here. I've actually got something here. I've got onto something. It works. So that's when I started looking into doing something in relation to health and fitness. And I discovered at the time, I didn't know at the time, and I discovered, and this is an interesting fact, and one that our people need to know, is that Asian men are 6 times more likely to suffer from heart disease, diabetes, and strokes in their 30s. And that is getting younger every year. That's getting younger and younger every year. I speak to so many brothers who are 32, 31 and they're diabetic. 30 and they're diabetic. Like this, before it used to be about in their 40s, late 30s. But we are genetically predisposed to it. We are genetically predisposed to it. So in the white community, in their 50s, diabetes is a concern. Amongst Asians, it used to be around 40s, late 30s. Now it's getting younger and younger. But you can see why. The dessert places everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And there's all these sugary coffees everywhere. Right. So that plus inactivity, everyone drives everywhere. All that combined, it's getting worse. And if we don't do something now, our next generation is going to be even worse. So that was a scary statistic. And quite a lot of my clients are pharmacists and doctors. And surprisingly, this information I got from the British Heart Foundation, diabetes.co.uk, and the NHS. Surprisingly, a lot of the doctors and pharmacists aren't aware of it. So when I told them this, so where do you get this information from? I'm like, this is on the NHS website. And like, oh, like, actually, yeah, like, wow. So I thought, like, okay, this is, and plus, on Facebook and stuff, you see people's, I've personally known, and I see a lot of young brothers, dying in their 30s, leaving their families behind. right? So I thought, okay, this is a real problem and one that needs solving.
Yeah.
And the other thing I convinced myself, at one time I had a very narrow field of what it is to serve Islam and to serve Allah and do something
Right.
with deen. I had a very narrow field of it.
Mm.
Like if you only read Quran, if you taught Quran, you're doing service of deen. But I can recall Sheikh Hamza Yusuf when I was a teenager. He used to hate this distinction, and he used to.
Yeah.
I remember listening to a lecture of his back in the 90s, and he said, "Look, if you build a bridge and the people are using it and the animals are benefiting and everyone's benefiting, right? You've done a service to the deen." Like that's how he'd say it. And he goes, like, imagine right now, say you're in a land where there's an island, and then that island, right, the people can't cultivate food or they can't get to the market and feed their
Yeah.
families properly. And now they have to get to the market, which is on the other island, and you come
Yeah.
and build a bridge. And now all of these people are benefiting from that bridge. They're going and they're feeding their families. And he goes, like, how on earth is that not a deed that Allah won't reward?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I thought, okay, like I need to broaden my vision of what it means to serve the deen. And from that, I thought, okay, alhamdulillah, this is a massive need, and one that I'm capable of. And I looked around, and I'm in so many coaches groups. I've worked with so many coaches on this, because anytime you take a course, they put you in a Facebook group and stuff like that.
Right.
So, and I've looked at all of these coaches and stuff, and none of them were tackling this issue.
Yeah.
We never had. I mean, in the wider community, there's experts. There's lots of experts. But in our community, there isn't any. And the few that I saw were propagating misinformation themselves.
Right.
They had this strange mix of what we call the wellness industry cult. The wellness industry promotes pseudoscience,
Okay.
right? And the few Muslim coaches that I saw were taking the pseudoscience, mixing with religion, and another hybrid pseudoscience. So, because sometimes it's religion taken out of context.
Yeah.
Like Prophet Sallallahu, he ate dates, but the Prophet Sallallahu also didn't eat a doner kebab and have a latte straight after. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So the Prophet ﷺ had butter and honey and all that stuff, but the Prophet ﷺ was not in a calorie surplus the rest of the day, and he lived in an environment. He was active, like, so
Yeah,
contextually,
exactly.
you have to look at the full context.
Yeah.
So you'd see people like they're struggling with their weight, then they're told, like, have butter and have this and have dates and honey and stuff like that. No, that's exactly what you shouldn't be doing if you're in a calorie surplus. So that's what I saw. And I mean, there was a massive need. And there's something else as well. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, not to worry.
Yeah. No. SubhanAllah. I think it's very commendable, the work that you're doing, and I think it's definitely needed, and hopefully there will be more and more people, and like you said, your team is growing, so I'm guessing there are more people kind of catching on that this type of work is important, and hopefully we do see more Muslims and South Asian brothers, dads, and that kind of bracket where it is really needed and is very important. They're coming up and they're doing more. Jazakallah khair for coming on, Adam. I really appreciate it. Hopefully the viewers got a lot of benefit from that. Is there somewhere where viewers can kind of check out more about health and fitness from your end?
Yeah, I mean, I have an absolute ton of content on Facebook. On my profile, I put loads of stuff up. And then I have a Facebook group as well where it's a bit more organized. But I'm trying to organize that even further. Yeah.
All right, man. Jazakallah khair. And inshallah, we'll get you on again, because we were saying just before we started the podcast, right, that your journey and your stories in your life could go across hours and could be turned into a book. So I'm sure there will be a lot more we can speak about, inshallah, next time.
Sure, inshallah. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.